In an era where truth seems fragile and freedom of speech is under attack, the release of this film takes on an ominous tone. Is it merely a coincidence that a film addressing the pressure on the press has emerged now? A fierce battle has unfolded in Hollywood between legendary actress Meryl Streep and well-known comedian Jimmy Kimmel, both of whom have unleashed criticism on Trump's decisions. Their tandem proved so destructive that it shook the political Olympus. Kimmel, known for his sparkling humor, and Streep, possessing undeniable authority, together created a volatile mixture that mercilessly dissected the former president's political decisions like a holiday turkey at a banquet. After several successful paragraphs detailing northern New Jersey, attention is drawn to an article written by a benevolent journalist. The author sympathizes with this individual, describing his confusion and difficulty in recalling events from 14 years ago. Further on, the text expresses deep disappointment at the moment when a person seeking the most respected position in the country imitated a reporter with disabilities, inferior to him in privilege, power, and the ability to resist. This episode left an indelible impression. The text then delves into the theme of the confrontation between Hollywood and Trump, where one side is armed with awards and wit and the other with impulsive statements on social media and an affinity for artificial tanning. This rivalry is compared to the clash between Batman and the Joker, but with an emphasis on the latter's persistent claims of having the largest inauguration audience. Meryl Streep, in turn, emerges as one of the main figures effectively dismantling Trump's ego with her characteristic grace. His public appearances are not just criticized, they are torn to shreds. Waking up early in the morning and logging into Twitter, he invariably wages war against Hollywood's most celebrated actress. George unleashed a veritable Twitter storm. It begins with the statement that Meryl Streep, one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, doesn't know him but attacked him last night at the Golden Globes. He labels her a Hillary flunky who has lost 100 times. He asserts that he never mocked a disabled reporter, would never do such a thing, and simply showed his subservience when the reporter completely altered a 16-year-old story he wrote to make him look bad. This is just another example of the very dishonest media, and nothing seems to get under Trump's skin like a strong woman refusing to bow to him. He once tried to portray her as an overrated actress, which sounds so absurd that even his supporters must have blinked in surprise. Overrated, a woman capable of playing any character, from Margaret Thatcher to a singing nun. If Meryl is overrated, then Trump's business acumen is simply legendary. But she is not alone in this fight. Jimmy Kimmel enters the fray, America's late-night watchdog, a man who has perfected the art of exposing hypocrisy with a smirk and a monologue. In the world of entertainment, where opinions are formed quickly and often change, one famous actress modestly admits that her talent may be overrated. She humorously notes that her name appears too often in the headlines, and her love of football makes her the object of scrutiny. Inviting viewers to join her journey, she offers them to become a part of her story. Jimmy Kimmel, known for his sharp wit and ability to analyze political events, doesn't just criticize politicians, he meticulously dissects their actions, revealing the absurdity of their statements. For many years, he has closely followed Trump's presidency, ridiculing his chaotic behavior with the precision of a surgeon who uses a microphone instead of a scalpel, tolerating no lies or hypocrisy. An example of his approach can be seen in a question he posed on one of his shows. Do you know how many times Trump lied during his speech last night? 11 million times. 3 fact-checkers died while counting. Not all viewers were thrilled with King's speech. One social media user quite accurately summed up the general sentiment, writing, "That may have been the angriest, least empathetic, and worst State of the Union speech ever delivered. It was an embarrassment to our country." Ironically, these words were written by Trump about Biden's speech last year, as if anticipating criticism directed at himself. Last night was not without criticism of Biden. Trump stated that Biden is the worst president in history, blaming him even for the price of eggs. He noted that Kimmel has honed his monologue and Meryl is ready to demonstrate her mastery, delivering such a powerful performance that even Trump's most devoted supporters will begin to question their life choices. History has repeatedly confirmed that Trump loses in a confrontation with Hollywood. The evening unfolded according to the usual script. The audience laughed, the cameras worked, and Jimmy Kimmel delivered his usual jokes in his monologue. However, a turning point suddenly occurred, a moment of comedic precision when the gloves were off and the punches began. The focus was on Trump's statement that he was considering hosting the Kennedy Center Honors this year, motivated by his high ratings. "It would be great," he noted. "I would host the awards ceremony and you would sit at home and write insults on Twitter while I do it. Let's do it." The Kennedy Center does not require biased performances, especially since some of the productions on display were of extremely low quality, which casts a shadow on the very fact that they were shown. Jimmy Kimmel, the host of the ceremony, began the evening with an ironic smile as if preparing to coldly dissect the absurdity of what was happening. He didn't need to resort to exaggeration because Donald Trump's biography already resembles a script rejected by the Saturday Night Live team. Bankruptcies in business, a strange obsession with audience sizes, endless lawsuits, all of this created fertile ground for comedic sketches packaged in a wrapper of delusions. Kimmel has spent years honing his craft of using Trump's own words against him, and this evening was no exception. Each joke hit the mark, causing an explosion of laughter in the hall. Then Meryl Streep took the stage, whose presence and every word carried the weight of numerous press conferences. She didn't need to raise her voice or come up with witty endings to make an impression. Last weekend, a football game between the University of Alabama and the University of Georgia took place in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The public's attention was drawn to one episode when a well-known person, while behind a fence, threw food at the crowd. This gesture evoked associations with feeding dolphins in an oceanarium where viewers watch as treats are thrown to the animals. At the moment when the laughter reached its peak, a witty remark followed, instantly changing the perception of the situation. It wasn't just humor, but a calibrated critique, so precise that even the most devoted supporters could feel confused. By the end of the performance, the audience witnessed a masterful exposure of absurdity, combining a satirical view and undeniable truth presented by two bright representatives of the entertainment industry. Hollywood once again demonstrated to the world that humor is a powerful weapon in the fight against political absurdity. Kimmel had a rare gift for turning political absurdity into witty jokes, so accurate that they left wounds on the thin armor of politicians' self-esteem. For example, President Trump, who usually doesn't bother filling out tournament brackets, seems to regret it now. "President Trump, did you fill out your NCAA March Madness bracket?" he is asked. "No, I didn't fill it out, I should have. There were some unexpected results," he replies. And then he adds, "Maybe someone will give me a filled-out bracket retroactively?" The first thing that comes to mind is how to cheat here. Meryl, on the other hand, had an amazing ability to raise any moment above the level of simple comedy. While Kimmel kept the audience's attention with relentless wit, she created such a presence that even the most ridiculous situation seemed like a Shakespearean tragedy worthy of an Oscar. Her words were weighted, thoughtful, and at the same time sharp enough to make even the most experienced political strategists nervous. She didn't need to shout or exaggerate. Her very manner of speaking carried the weight of truth, clothed in an elegant form but permeated with undeniable criticism. The magic of the night was on the scales of justice. Kimmel, like a night killer, dissected Trump's last chaotic outburst with surgical precision, accurately throwing satirical barbs. Following him, Streep, with her inherent elegance, unleashed a phrase so devastating that it could well have elicited applause. It was a moment when laughter and awareness collided in a single impulse. Comedy softened the blow, but the message pierced the target, and that is the power of satire. Viewers come for the jokes, but leave with something more. Traditional political discourse is dry and predictable, but comedy slips past the defense. It creates an atmosphere of comfort and then stuns with the truth before anyone realizes what has happened. In an era when misinformation spreads like wildfire and wrong decisions are defended with screaming tweets, humor remains one of the most powerful weapons against absurdity. Making yourself a target is humiliating and scary. It opens the way for all sorts of attacks, armies of bots, and other troubles. The only way to endure it is to feel like you have to do it, that you have no other choice. It is necessary to be an active citizen, express your opinion, and act. By the end of the episode, viewers were not only enjoying themselves but also reflecting, laughing, and recognizing the reality hidden behind the jokes. After all, when humor is so sharp, it not only entertains but also exposes, enlightens, and most importantly, is remembered. And, like clockwork, the reaction followed. As soon as the episode ended, Trump's fingers began furiously typing a panicked post on social media, which was more like the furious key-mashing of an angry child who had lost a video game than a response. Insults were present, insane conspiracy theories too, and an attempt to portray himself as a victim was, of course, included. It was a verbal mishmash understandable only to those fluent in the language of angry tweets, with excessive exclamation points and highly original spelling choices. As expected, he immediately called Meryl Streep an overrated actress. Apparently, the three-time Oscar winner and true movie icon still haunts him. Donald Trump famously criticized talk show host Jimmy Kimmel, claiming he was a failure despite objective ratings data indicating otherwise. Such statements, coming from a man whose gambling ventures have repeatedly gone bankrupt, raise questions. Especially considering the accusations of Kimmel's left-leaning bias who, as is known, has not hesitated to criticize both sides of the political spectrum for many years. As an example, there is the claim that under the Biden administration, the federal government allegedly allocated $8 million for gender reassignment surgeries on mice. This statement, circulated by the president, turned out to be fake. Despite possible exaggeration on Trump's part, such accusations have no real basis. The irony is that Trump, seeking recognition from celebrities, clashes with famous Hollywood figures and suffers defeats. A man who has spent decades seeking acceptance into the entertainment industry elite, appearing in movies and socializing with celebrities, continues this behavior. However, when Hollywood turned its back on him, he responded with resentment as if rejected at prom, assuring everyone that he didn't want to go anyway. His supporters, of course, immediately sprang into action, trying to make sense of what had happened. Some resorted to the classic defense, claiming that they are simply driven by envy. Yes, because there is nothing more victorious than complaining on social media about people who aren't even thinking about you. Others tried to argue that Streep and Kimmel are out-of-touch elites. This might be a convincing argument if their hero wasn't a billionaire living in a gilded tower and hosting steak-eating contests at his private club. Then came the desperate conspiracy theories. Maybe Kimmel works for a secret Hollywood cabal, maybe Meryl is a deep state agent trained to deliver devastating monologues, maybe it's all orchestrated by fake news media to distract from something Trump did. But his worst enemy has always been and always will be his own words. But no matter how hard his fans try, the damage has been done. Durant only amplified the viral effect of the clip, ensuring that even those who missed it earlier would now definitely see it. Every tweet, every defensive interview, every angry tirade only confirms this idea. No one discredits Trump as much as he does himself. On this momentous day in the country called America, the question arises, did anyone else receive an invitation to a group chat from the National Security Advisor today? Perhaps one shouldn't rejoice that the country is run by a gathering of dunces, but frankly, it's hard to resist. The internet once again showed itself in all its glory, turning Trump's meltdown into a veritable meme goldmine. The hashtags #Meryl vs. Trump and #KimmelClapback instantly became trending topics, and Twitter users unleashed an avalanche of witty comments, hilarious GIFs, and brutal memes, making one wonder if the entire internet possesses a phenomenal sense of humor. Photos of Meryl were edited to look like she was in a boxing ring wearing gloves while Trump floundered helplessly on the mat. A clip of Kimmel's Trump mockery repeating in a loop was titled, "How to Deal with a Bully." And, of course, Trump's own all-caps meltdown was turned into a Mad Libs game where users filled in the blanks with any absurd insults they thought he might say. Late-night hosts didn't miss the opportunity to react quickly to the situation. Stephen Colbert, on his show, verbatim recited Donald Trump's angry tirade without resorting to cuts or witticisms, allowing the absurdity of the situation to speak for itself before regretfully stating, "And this is the leader of one of the leading political parties." Seth Meyers dedicated an entire investigation to the topic, supplementing it with dramatic reconstructions depicting Trump pacing around the Mar-a-Lago residence and shouting at the television. Even Saturday Night Live couldn't resist creating a sketch where Meryl Streep, in all her Oscar-winning glory, delivered such an impressive monologue that Trump's staff were forced to simulate applause to prevent him from immediately firing someone. This episode became not just viral, but a genuine pop culture event, further confirming that in a confrontation with comedians, actors, and the internet community, Trump invariably finds himself in a losing position. He can't compare in the ability to close schools, and even if he filled out a bracket, it would be far from perfect. And here's the crux of the matter. Trump may have spent years creating an image as a television icon, but in the real world of pop culture, he consistently suffers defeats. Every time he engages in a confrontation with Hollywood comedians or musicians, it turns into a complete fiasco for him. The man who built his image on reality TV somehow forgets that in the world of entertainment, he is more of an object of ridicule than a creator. This moment became not just another clash between a celebrity and Trump, but a reminder of how powerful pop culture can be in shaping public opinion. Traditional news agencies certainly report the facts, but it is humor and storytelling that make people feel the absurdity of what is happening. Kimmel's jokes hit the mark because they broke through the propaganda. Meryl's words resonated because they exposed the absurdity of the situation with undeniable clarity. And the reason this bothers Trump is his desire to be recognized by the very industry that constantly mocks him. He craves approval from late-night shows and award ceremonies, but every time he steps into the ring he is outmatched by people who are simply better at it. He spent years perfecting the art of manipulating the media only to realize that against real artists, he is just another irritated guest on a show he can't control. The comedian didn't miss the opportunity to thank President Trump, alluding to changes in the perception of the Oscars. After all, many remember how last year the ceremony was accused of bias. According to the comedian, with Trump's arrival, this problem is a thing of the past. Now the question arises, how will Trump react? Will he rush into the digital space with angry messages, or will advisors convince him to ignore the outburst? History suggests that restraint will be difficult. The politician seems to lack self-control. But what new can he say? He has already called Meryl Streep an overrated actress, and criticism of the host is just a repetition of old grievances from his album of complaints. Support from supporters will certainly be there, but the moment is lost. Millions of people saw this episode, and it's not just another squabble between Hollywood and Trump. It is a demonstration of how cultural figures can challenge power in ways that politicians and journalists cannot. Humor cuts through the information noise, satire exposes the absurd. And no matter how many angry posts follow, Trump cannot change the fact that he has once again become an object of ridicule.